couple months ago I released a video that explained the interesting connection between the actions you take, the results you get, memory and time. That video got over 200,000 views, and here are what some of the comments said about the video. In this video, I'm going to bring you a graph that you've probably never seen before, and it's a graph that's going to give you more value. It's going to help you out in your day-to-day life far more than that other graph. You see, on a day-to-day basis, we make 35,000 decisions, and I believe that it's those decisions that decide whether we have a good life or whether we live a bad life. So you're going to be able to use this graph on every single one of those decisions to first of all highlight which decision is the right decision, and second of all, help you actually make that decision, even if it's difficult or even if it's boring. If you're impatient and you want to know what this graph looks like, then this is what it looks like. Now, it's going to take me a couple minutes to explain what this graph is and why it's so powerful. If you decide to skip ahead, then you're just diminishing the value of this whole video, and there's no point in you watching this video. Seneca once said that we should always allow some time to elapse, for time discloses the truth. So let me unpack this throughout the whole video. We're going to start with some simple concepts, then we're going to move on to the more advanced ones later on. In life, there are activities that give us instant gratification, and there are activities that give us delayed gratification. Instant gratification activities are where we get the benefit of the activity very quickly after doing it. For example, if you post on Instagram, within a couple minutes you're going to start getting likes, which is social approval, which releases dopamine in your brain, and you feel good. You get the benefit very quickly after you do the activity. Other examples of this are eating pizza and watching porn and stuff like that. And delayed gratification, on the other hand, is when you do a task and you don't receive the full amount of benefits from that task until a delayed period of time. For example, if you read a book today, you're not going to receive all of those benefits of the book today. You're going to receive them over a long period of time as you start to apply that book in your life. Other examples are meditation, or learning new skills, or exercising, or eating healthily. Generally speaking, instant gratification feels good in the moment. It feels good as you do it. You get dopamine and it just feels good. But shortly afterwards, around 10 minutes, you can barely remember the fact that you were feeling good before. If you post on Instagram, the initial buzz dies off quite quickly. If you eat a burger, you may enjoy it in the moment, but you're not happier for the rest of the week because you ate that burger. It dies out very quickly. On the other hand, delayed gratification often feels bad in the moment. Eating a salad is less fun than eating a burger, so you feel bad in the moment. Often it's more boring. Often it's slightly more difficult to do. It's harder to read a book than it is to watch a YouTube video. So now we have a graph that looks like this. This shows that when you do instant gratification, you get a peak in your emotions and then it goes back to your baseline. And if you engage in delayed gratifications, let's just say, for this example, you get a negative part of your emotions and then you go back to normal. Now this is where things get interesting, because now we're going to add the element of time into the equation. So let's explore the correlation between instant gratification and the benefits that gives us over time compared to delayed gratification and the benefits that that gives us over time. Generally speaking, instant gratification feels good in the short term, but it's generally net negative in the long run. Eating a burger feels good, but you know over the long run it impacts your health. Cheating on your partner may feel exciting, exhilarating in the moment, but you know in the long run it's definitely net negative. On the other hand, generally speaking, delayed gratification is net positive. If you read a book, it's boring in the moment, but the benefit it gives you over time is immense. If you learn a new skill, it's difficult in the moment, but over the long run, the benefits you get are immense. So we now have a correlation between instant gratification and bad in the long run, and delayed gratification and good in the long run. If you want scientific proof that this is true, you can just Google the marshmallow experiment. I'm not going to go into it now, but that shows scientific proof that the people that are able to engage in delayed gratification end up doing better in their life in the long run in terms of their wealth, their happiness and their relationships. So now we have a graph that looks like this. The graph shows that with instant gratification it feels good in the moment, then you go back to normal, but over the long run you get a net negative response. And delayed gratification feels boring in the moment, you return back to normal, and over the long run you get a net positive response. But this gets even more interesting when we factor in habits into the equation. You see, when you post on Instagram and you get that dopamine hit, what it does is it creates a loop in your brain between posting on Instagram and feeling good. Which means when you post on Instagram, you're creating a habit in your brain that makes it far more likely that you're going to post on Instagram again. Which means you're going to get into the habit of relying on instant gratification. And it gets even worse. Not only are you going to be relying on the habit of instant gratification through Instagram, when you start seeking instant gratification in one area of your life, it spills out into all areas of your life. Which means you're going to start to get impatient. Your attention span is going to start to reduce. You're going to start to switch between partners much more quickly. All of these things are going to happen when you start to seek instant gratification in one area of your life. You become like a dopamine addicted rat that relies on dopamine and instant gratification in all areas of your life. It reduces your ability to do delayed gratification. On the flip side, if you go on a run, you're creating the habit of going on a run, so you're more likely to go on more runs in the future. You're also getting into the habit of practicing delayed gratification, which is going to spill in as a benefit into all other areas of your life. So now we have a graph that looks like this. As you can see, when you do one instant gratification thing, you're far more likely to do other instant gratification things, which is going to make the net negative even lower. Whereas if you do delayed gratification things, you're far more likely to do more delayed gratification things. So it's going to make the net positive far more higher. But this gets even more dramatic when we consider the domino effect. You see, in life, most people make decisions through their first order consequences, which means if I do something, what is the direct consequence of doing that one thing? For example, if I buy a TV on finance, then the first order consequence is that I'm going to have to pay $50 a month for, X amount of period of time. It's not really a big deal. But when you consider the second and the third and the fourth order consequences, which means the chain of reactions that come from that initial event, that singular decision becomes a massive decision. For example, if you don't pay back your payment for that month, your credit goes down, you get more interest, you end up having to pay so much more to the bank. On top of that, not only are you going to end up paying far more than the TV is actually worth over the long run, having a TV in your house is introducing a negative into your environment, which creates a potential for many thousands of hours of distraction away from activities that you want to be doing. So when you consider a TV not just as something in your room that you can watch something with, and not just as the payment plans you're going to have to go with it, you start to realize the net negative effect of buying a TV on finance has. It's absolutely phenomenal, but most people don't think that far into the future. And an example on the flip side, if you go on a run today, then for the rest of the day, you're going to have a clearer mind, which is going to help your relationships because you're going to be less defensive. It's going to help your business or your job because you're going to be able to do better work. And because it's helping your relationship, you're going to be happier when you get home, which means you can relax more, which means you're going to do better in work the next day. You're going to get a promotion and so on and so forth. So when you connect the second and the third and the fourth order consequences of a single activity, you start to recognize the devastating consequences of that activity. If it's a good activity, then you're going to get a whole lot of good from that activity over the long run. And if it's a bad activity, you're going to get a whole lot of bad from that singular activity. So now we have a graph that looks like this. When you engage in instant gratification, the negative results that come from that are compounding. They get worse and worse and worse over time because of habit and because of the domino effect. If you engage in delayed gratification activities, then the net positive benefits that come from that compound over the long run because of the domino effect and because of habits. So when you have these decisions between doing different activities, instead of just considering the first order consequences, consider the knock-on effect or the domino effect that's going to come from doing those things. It's really difficult to motivate yourself to go to the gym when you just consider the first order consequences, which are, I'm going to get in slightly better shape, but I'm hardly even going to notice it. If I weigh myself, there's going to be no difference. That's very difficult to motivate yourself to go to the gym. Whereas if you remember that if you go to the gym now, you're creating the habit of going to the gym, which means you're going to go many times into the future, but also you're going to have a clearer mind, you're going to feel stronger, you're going to feel more confident, you will have done something difficult, which is going to strengthen your brain, and there are all of these second and third and fourth order consequences, which makes you realize the importance of doing good things. So you can summarize instant gratification as short-term superficial pleasure at the cost of long-term fulfillment. And you can summarize delayed gratification as short-term sacrifice of superficial pleasure for long-term fulfillment. And this is why rich people practice delayed gratification daily, and poor people practice instant gratification daily. But I'm not just talking about rich in terms of wealth. If you go back to the marshmallow effect, you'll see that the more you can practice delayed gratification, the happier you're going to be, the better your relationships will be, the better job satisfaction you will have, and all of these other things. You will be better in all areas of your life if you can practice delayed gratification. So when you've got these 35,000 decisions every single day, you may be able to use the correlation between fun and negative in the long run, and boring but positive in the long run, to help you decide which decision is the best one to make. That does not mean that everything fun in the moment is long-term negative and that everything boring in the moment is long-term positive, not at all. But generally speaking, I would much rather be playing Xbox with my friends, instant gratification, than recording this YouTube video, which is delayed gratification. That's actually a bad example. I love doing YouTube. I do it for free. But I hope you get my point. And when you recognize which decision is the best decision for you to make, you can use the motivation that comes when you recognize the second and third and the fourth order consequences of that activity to help to motivate you to do the right decision. So when you're going to the gym, don't just think of the first order consequences. Think of all of the thousands of benefits you're going to get when you go to that gym. And if you can continue to focus on the long run, balancing it with having fun in the short term, then the world is your playground. You're going to feel so much happier. You're going to be able to succeed in whatever it is that you want to do. I really believe these things. I believe that this is a fundamental law of the universe. It's just the way the world works. If you can practice in delayed gratification and focus on improving your life in the long run, instead of just focus on this short-term instant gratification pleasure seeking where you are like a dopamine addicted rat, then I truly believe that the world is your playground in the long run. And I completely understand that this is easier said than done, so if you want help practicing more delayed gratification and reduce the amount of instant gratification you get, if you go to andrewkirby.net/growth, we'll be able to help you get on the track of removing instant gratification and replacing those habits with delayed gratification. Go to andrewkirby.net/growth. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure you click the like button. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I appreciate you for watching this far.